Seawall is my thesis film that I completed from CalArts to graduate, and it's a story about a boy living in Georgetown, Guyana, who has to move away to America, and the conflict that arises between him and his grandmother when it's time for him to leave. It's a story about a family that's sort of breaking apart and separated by the Atlantic Ocean and by the seawall, which is, you know, a huge man-made structure that protects Guyana from flooding. I wanted to show Guyana, like the country. I wanted to show the beauty of the country that I remember as a boy. And I also wanted to tell a story about immigration, because there are more Guyanese living abroad than in the actual country. So I wanted to make a film to kind of touch on that lightly. And I also want to make a story about family, because that's really important to me. It was all non-actors, all Guyanese people. And I basically found the actors and said, I'm making a movie, here's a scene, and I would explain that there's a scenario, what the scenario was, and then say, I want you to react genuinely how you would react in the situation. Right. Every morning when I was staying in Guyana, the coconut water man would come by, it's a coconut water. And so I wanted to put that aspect in the film, because it's such a beautiful, unique thing that doesn't happen all over the world, where someone is selling fresh coconuts and coconut juice right there. So I put that scene, and the lead woman, Marjorie, she's actually a retired school teacher living in Kitty, and she was just a natural, you know. And I saw Malachi in the market, running around barefoot with no shirt. I'm like, who's this kid? This kid would be great for the movie. Right. And the irony is that later that day, he was at Marjorie's house. It's her godson. A lot of it was done with in-kind donations. So because I had a fiscal sponsor, the people from Frog, I was able to get stuff donated. Like Coffee Sound in Hollywood donated like $10,000 worth of equipment for free to go to Guyana. So that cut the budget down by $10,000. I had some really amazing friends, Oliver Luckett and Brandy Wooten, who gave a big bulk of money. They're the executive producers on the film, and my mom was able to, you know, to give some money, and then people just donated. So I raised it through the community, and people who wanted to see the story of Guyana on the big screen kind of pitched in to make it happen. I would love to make another film in Guyana. I would love to. The thing is, it's really expensive, and you know, I think what's important in bringing cinema to Guyana is getting the cooperation of the country and the government to support filmmakers with funding and resources, things like that. I would love to make a longer version of Seawall. So would I make another film in Guyana? Absolutely. Do I need support from the country and the community? Yes. When I found out that it was going to be part of Cannes, it just, you know, it was surreal in a sense. I just felt like there's a place for Caribbean films in a festival like Cannes. Like I felt like this is where my film needs to be, and other Caribbean filmmakers, we need to be on the world stage. You know, working with children, a lot of directors are afraid of it because they feel like, you know, you have to manage them and direct them on every detail. But I found it was the opposite with Malachi. Because, you know, he is a kid, you know, kids have the luxury of having a fresh imagination. So a lot of times I would just say to him, just imagine, let's pretend that you're going to be late for school and your friend is, you know, and it was just easy for him to just pretend. Because, you know, at that age, your imagination is very active and vivid. So it was actually easy working, you know, with a kid. For every filmmaker, especially in the Caribbean and just wherever, it's always a challenge to raise funds for your film. You have to have a really great story to convince people to invest in it, to make it. Another major challenge that I had was because there aren't films made in Guyana often, no one knew what was happening. So I tried to get a light, and I couldn't get a light. I couldn't get a light because no one knew what light I was talking about. So we drove all over down the Seawall trying to find a certain light with a certain wattage. We finally got it. And we only used one light in the film. It's all natural light. I'm inspired by specific films and specific periods. I love Abbas Kiarostami. He's an Iranian filmmaker. He has a film called Where's My Friend's Home? And the first time I saw that, I was just like, this is amazing. There's an Indian filmmaker, Sajid Ray, who did the Apu trilogy. He did, back in the 50s, black and white, just captured the essence of this village. I'm a huge fan of Ed Hopper, Darren Aronofsky. I love Wes Anderson. Woody Allen is one of my all-time favorites. And I also am a huge fan of Terrence Malick. For Caribbean filmmakers, I think it's really important that we just tell our stories from the way we experience them and tell our truth, and trust that the world and everyone else is interested in hearing it. What needs to happen is that the Caribbean filmmakers need to be united. It's necessary that we tell our stories and we share our stories, because I think, you know, the Caribbean has been a rich history of oral tradition. Like as a kid growing up in Guyana, we had what we call story time. So my mother and my father would sit and tell us stories about old time, and we would just listen, and you would just kind of imagine, right? So we have an oral history of storytelling, and I think, you know, with technology and in this day and age, I think we should transfer those stories into visual. I'm working on a screenplay, my first feature film, based off of a novel published by Simon & Schuster. It's a really amazing book that was, you know, endorsed by Nikki Giovanni, who I love, and Cornel West supports this novel. So I was really fortunate to connect with the novelist, and we're writing the screenplay. I'm slated to write and direct some public service announcements in Guyana, working with young people, finding out what are some of the issues that affect them in terms of abuse and violence in the Caribbean, because we know that's a very prevalent thing. You read the paper, the Starbuck News, and there's always some horrific crime against a child or a woman. People think about the Caribbean, they think about music and food, but then they don't think about film, and they don't think about visuals, and I think it's our responsibility as artists and filmmakers to do that, you know, to start making films. And here's the tricky part: to start making good films where we really invest, you know, the time and, you know, the experience, and, you know, to make the best, to tell the best stories in the best quality and the best light.